Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, obviously, the UFC has given us some great moments this year, and in today's video, in no particular order, we're going to be talking about the best 8 moments the UFC has given us so far. We're going to be going ahead and diving into epic knockouts, unbelievable comebacks, and moments that have defined this year so far. Now, before we go ahead and get started with the video, I would really appreciate if you guys take the time and consider subscribing to the channel. It would definitely mean a lot to me. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the countdown. Now, coming in at the number 8 spot was Dricus du Plessis taking on Strickland for the middleweight title. Of course, we saw, Dricus du Plessis become the new middleweight champion, and this left, a lot of the community in disbelief, right? Because there was a lot of argument on whether or not Dricus du Plessis actually deserved to win that fight. Now, if you ask me, I thought that the fight was incredibly close, right? And you could call it for either side, but in my opinion, I don't think that the story is going to end here, ladies and gentlemen. I do believe since the fight was incredibly close, they are going to run it back if Dricus du Plessis is able to retain his title against Israel Adesanya at UFC 305 at Perth. Now, coming in at the number 7 spot is Brian Ortega submitting Yair Rodriguez. Now, let me give you guys some context just in case you guys just so happen to forget about how crazy this win was for Brian Ortega. Before this fight even, took place, there was a lot of talk going on in the community on whether or not Brian Ortega even had the capabilities to maintain his spot in the featherweight division. And there was a lot of people that pretty much just seemed to believe that Yair Rodriguez was just going to go ahead and starch Brian Ortega, since Brian Ortega was coming off an injury and he hadn't fought in a while. Now, right before the fight even happened, Brian Ortega was warming up. He jumps up and he rolls his foot literally a minute before the fight even started. Being compromised, he still put the pressure on Yair Rodriguez, but Yair Rodriguez was able to knock down Brian Ortega within the first 2 minutes of the first round. Now, at this point, a lot of people were already convinced that, Yair Rodriguez was going to go ahead and close out the match. But then, Brian Ortega pretty much turns the rest of the fight into a grappling match. And then he was able to secure a submission over Yair Rodriguez, who was favored to win this fight. Now, coming in the number 6 spot, ladies and gentlemen, is a moment that I was really sad to witness live, and that was Ilia Topuria getting the knockout over Alexander Volkanovski. This one hit home for me, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you guys that don't know, Alexander Volkanovski is my favorite fighter, one of my favorite fighters in UFC, period. You know what I'm saying? And I was talking up Alexander Volkanovski so much in this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I just didn't believe that Ilia Topuria had the capability to beat someone as great as Alexander Volkanovski. But lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, I was proven wrong. Ilia Topuria, he was, in my opinion, losing a lot of the exchanges early on in that fight. And then Alexander Volkanovski, takes a couple steps back. Ilia Topuria comes into pressure, and then he knocks out Alexander Volkanovski. Ilia Topuria now being the new featherweight champion in the division. I think that they're probably going to have a rematch at some point in time, but this was undoubtedly one of the craziest moments of the year. Coming in the number 5 spot was the fight between Steve Erceg and Alexandre Pantoja. Now, in my opinion, I think Steve Erceg was clearly the victor in that fight. I think that there's a lot of people out there who seem to disagree with that point, but let's just be honest right now. Steve Erceg should have won that fight. Now, obviously, I'm trolling a little bit, but let's just be honest. Steve Erceg looked like he was champion material, ladies and gentlemen. If he would have not gone to the ground with Pantoja, he probably would have won the 5th round, thus winning the fight. Now, let me be clear. The reason why this is such a crazy moment is the fact that Steve Erceg was ranked number 10 in the division, and Alexandre Pantoja was obviously the champion. This was a fight that Alexandre Pantoja was just supposed to literally steamroll through, and Steve Erceg made it ultra competitive. Now, coming in the number 4 spot, ladies and gentlemen, was Dustin Poirier knocking out the God of War, Benoit Saint Denis. Now, let me make this clear. Everyone was pretty much talking about how all the older guys were getting beat by the younger generation, right? And Dustin Poirier was next up. A lot of people seem to believe that Benoit Saint Denis was going to go ahead and put an end to Dustin Poirier's career. But the complete opposite of that happened, ladies and gentlemen, when Dustin Poirier proved why he is called the Diamond. And the diamond shined bright that night, ladies and gentlemen, because he was able to put away the new up-and-comer Benoit Saint Denis. And he was able to do that in spectacular fashion, ladies and gentlemen, putting the pressure on Benoit Saint Denis, landing a crazy hook to Benoit Saint Denis' chin and knocking him down and retaining his rank in the lightweight division. That win alone, ladies and gentlemen, gave Dustin Poirier the opportunity to fight for the title, which is obviously the number 3rd spot in today's video. And that is Islam Makhachev continuing to show his dominance in the UFC lightweight division with a 5th round submission victory over Dustin Poirier at UFC 302. Despite a competitive 2nd round and Poirier's strong efforts, Makhachev's grappling prowess and a final darts choke secured his win. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen, because he is tied for title defenses with his friend and training partner Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, after this fight, Makhachev pretty much hinted that he could potentially move to the welterweight division because there are few contenders in the lightweight division that interest him. For Poirier, this loss could mark the end of his career, but recently we did find out that Dustin Poirier is gonna go for one more fight in the UFC, but this is undoubtedly one of the biggest moments of the year. Now, coming in at the number 2nd spot, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the knockout that Max Holloway gave us versus Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. Now, this was an incredibly hyped up fight, ladies and gentlemen. There was a lot of people out there that seemed to believe that Justin Gaethje, being the natural lightweight, was going to go ahead and wipe the floor with Max Holloway, who was moving up in weight divisions. But as we know, Max Holloway delivered a stunning last-second knockout of Justin Gaethje in the very last round, capturing the BMF title. Holloway dominated with speed, footwork, and landing a spinning back kick in round number 2 that bloodied up Justin Gaethje and pretty much just compromised him for the rest of the fight. This fight here, ladies and gentlemen, has the potential to be fight of the year and definitely is going to go up in the history books as one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history. Without a doubt, this is one of the craziest moments of the year. Now, in the number 1 spot, ladies and gentlemen, is obviously Alex Pereira knocking out Jiri Prochazka at UFC 303. Now, obviously, this was such a crazy event, ladies and gentlemen, because this was supposed to be the event where Conor McGregor was going to make his comeback against Michael Chandler, but of course we know that that fight never materialized because Conor McGregor had to pull out due to an injury. Now, they call up Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka a couple of days before the event and they accept the fight. Now, when the fight was actually going down, Alex Pereira was able to knock down Jiri Prochazka in the very last moment of round number 1. In my opinion, I thought that the fight was over at that point, but they went ahead with a round number 2. And of course, we saw the crazy switch kick knockout that is rarely ever seen in UFC, which was a crazy moment and definitely one of the greatest moments of the year. But so far, those are my top 8 moments of the year so far. If you guys have any other moments that you guys would like to mention down in the comments, definitely let me know. As always, it's a pleasure. Peace out and have a good one.